Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sharp, St. Andrew's class of '68, and welcome to the Rocks and Razorbacks podcast. Here, we feature conversations with remarkable alumni, teachers, and administrators from both Middleton and St. Andrew's high schools. This is a great way to share meaningful stories and keep our memories alive of growing up in West Ashley. Now for today's show.
Barbara Gilchrist was a cheerleader at St. Andrew's Parish High School. Her two daughters cheered at Middleton High School, and her granddaughter cheered at West Ashley High School. So much local history with this one family. I sat down with Barbara and we talked about St. Andrews and Charleston in the 1950s. Everything from dating a cadet to going to Folly Pier and Magnolia Drive-In. If you love our two schools and nostalgia, I think you'll really enjoy Barbara's story. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely. We're going to really talk about your days in high school, I think, predominantly. The 50s. The 50s has such a nostalgia to it and romanticism to it of sorts. Looking back, in general, do you feel the same as well?
Oh, I think the 50s were the most wonderful time. I often reminisce with friends about how we were so lucky to live during that time. Life was easy, but there were lots of rules to follow, but they were good rules. They made us better people, I think.
Tell me about your family settling in the Charleston area and how you ended up in St. Andrew's Parish.
Well, that's somewhat interesting. My father was from Richmond, Virginia, and my mother grew up here. And my sister was 8.5 years older than me, and they had lived in North Carolina. The Depression sent them back to Charleston. And then towards the end of the 30s, when I was born in 1939, St. Andrew's Parish was beginning to grow. And my father decided that rather than live downtown, where they had lived for several years, that they would rather live in the suburbs where we had more freedom, where we had yard space, where we could ride bicycles easily. And so that's what brought us back. And so in 1939, when I was 6 months old, Mother and Daddy bought a house in Windermere. And that's where I grew up.
Right, real West Ashley type of story from then on. Right,
yes. Mother sold that house in the mid-1980s after my father died.
Tell me about your early memories of going to the Wapu Road, St. Andrew's Parish High School for the first time.
For the first time. That was a long time ago. I graduated from St. Andrews Elementary in 1951 because they opened it in fall of 50. And so I started then in the fall of 52 in the 7th grade. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because we knew we were middle school, but there was no really, we didn't feel like we were in middle school. We knew we weren't really part of high school, but at the same time, most everything they had, we were included in. So when all the clubs that they had, the sporting events and those kind of things, we felt a part of all of that, So, but when we went into high school, it was different. I can't really tell you what the difference was, but it was different knowing we were freshmen. It was, but like I was a member of the dramatic clubs, Players Club, and I was fortunate enough to get in what they call Festus Show at the time. And so I did that from 8th grade through 12th grade. So we could participate in those kind of things even in 7th and 8th grade.
Did you ever have any memory of the senior lawn being someplace not to be for an underclassman?
Oh, yes. We knew better than to go on the senior lawn till we were seniors. Some few people would venture to do that, but they paid the price for it. Not too many people did. We'd stand on the periphery and talk to people, that sort of thing. But to actually sit on the lawn, that was reserved for seniors, as well as the front steps. We weren't allowed to go up the front steps of the school until we were seniors. That was considered senior property. But we respected that. We knew we weren't supposed to do that. So we all looked forward to being older and being seniors and being able to take our turn on the senior lawn and sitting on the front steps. And, you know.
You were the type not to ruffle any feathers, is that it?
I don't know. I don't think I ruffled too many.
So thanks to the magic of Wikipedia and Googling a little bit, here's some highlights from 1955. You tell me your thoughts about some of these.
I'll try. Okay.
All right, here we go. Disneyland in California opened up.
Yes, I think it did. I didn't go to Disneyland until my 1969, but we did go to Disneyland in California. But I love Disneyland.
I imagine if you, as a kid, if you heard it was opened up, we got to go one day, soon.
I don't know that we even gave that much thought. California was a long way away. I think it was when Disney World opened in Florida that people really began to get excited about going to Disneyland, Disney World.
Right. So James Dean, big name, famous, good-looking guy, good-looking actor, but that's the year, I'm afraid, he tragically died in a car wreck.
Absolutely, yeah. He was a good-looking, and he was a good actor. And I guess every girl, in a way, had a crush on him. As we did many of the musical talents as well during that time, you know. Frank Sinatra. We mentioned Frank Sinatra.
We were talking about Frank Sinatra.
Yeah. But I think, you know, we all had this feeling that we would like to meet those kind of people.
Right. Yeah. And Sinatra's timeless, so he covers all the decades, doesn't he? So Elvis actually, probably in 56 is when he made his mark more. Any memories of young Elvis Presley suddenly appearing on the news or records appearing at a record store?
I know Elvis came to Charleston. I didn't go to the concert, but I know lots of people who did. But Elvis was not one of my favorite. You know, he was okay. But I remember when he was on the Ed Sullivan Show for the first time, and we had a television. Our first television you couldn't see very well because you had to put an antenna on top of the house, and Savannah was the closest TV station. So it was through the snow that we watched Elvis on television. And I remember when they didn't want to see him moving his hips the way they did, so they didn't show below his waist.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Oh, man. Yep. Yeah. Ed Sullivan is like such a pinnacle for so many acts opening up.
Yeah.
Later on the Beatles, but you were not in high school during the Beatles.
Yeah, Beatles were coming in just as we were kind of graduating. Yeah. We were kind of into, you know, beach music and that sort of thing by that time, and enjoyed going to the beach and dancing at the pier down at the beach. And
what are your memories of that? Of Folly Pier and dancing, I guess, Friday nights or something like that?
Mostly Saturday nights, I think, but they had some pretty big name people that would come. But you didn't have to go when there was a big band. They had a jukebox there, and you could go and dance almost any time you wanted to. And we often did that. I mean, particularly in the summertime. That was lots of fun. And I had a friend who had a beach house, and we would go down and stay at her beach house and then go down to Center Street and kind of dance. Dancing was certainly a part of our life. There's no doubt about it.
Another big act that hit the stage in 1955 was Bill Haley and the Comets.
Comets, oh yeah.
Rock Around the Clock.
Rock Around the Clock. And our band would play that at halftime because everybody loved it. So yeah, it was music like that we loved. And don't ask me to come up with the artist names. I have enough time remembering my own name. But yeah, all the music of that time was just wonderful. I don't remember a McDonald's here. When I was in high school, we had several fast food restaurants. Boodles had opened on Savannah Highway. That's where we hung out more, where you could go and get a hamburger and milkshakes, and people just kind of hung out there. Before that, Red and Bertha's was another place, and they were down there where the Coburg Cow is, where St. Andrew's Shopping Center is. And so we did that. The first encounter I actually had with McDonald's was after my husband and I were married, and we were on our way to Tennessee, where we were going to live. And Atlanta had a McDonald's. That was the first time I remember seeing a McDonald's sign. But that it later became a real hangout for people. And my children loved it.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
By the time they were born, if we could stop at McDonald's, they were happy.
I remember to this day, big like Friday night, Saturday night, we're taking the whole family. We had 5 kids, the Fennells, jump in the station wagon, and they want to go to Western Sizzlin' on Savannah Highway.
Oh, yes.
And I'm the littlest one, insisting on going by McDonald's to pick me up just a burger and fries, because I don't want a steak. No, I want a burger.
You know, that's funny you should say that, because we lived in North Carolina, and we'd stop in Wilmington halfway to have dinner, lunch, whatever time of day we left. And my youngest one always wanted a hamburger from McDonald's too. She didn't get it. She had to eat whatever we ate, wherever we ate, but she'd say, I'd rather go to McDonald's.
So, Barbara, you mentioned your husband just a moment ago. Please tell me about the history with him and how you guys ended all together.
Yes. He actually was a student at St. Andrews, but I didn't know him at that point. And I went to Church of the Holy Communion downtown for Christmas Eve service with a friend. We'd been invited to go. Neither one of us were members of Holy Communion, but we'd been invited to go to Christmas Eve service. It's the only church holding a midnight service at that point was the Roman Catholic Church. So we went, and it just so happened that I had other friends at Church of the Holy Communion, and he was the cousin of one of the friends of mine. And so I met him that night. And then during that week, we ended up at the same party. Just happened chance. And the rest is kind of history. We started dating the next week. So I say we met in high school because he was a senior in high school, but we actually met at church. It was Christmas Eve. It was
okay,
December.
So you had another half a year in high school of dating a senior.
We did, yes.
Wow, what was that like for a freshman?
It was great.
Did he let you on the senior lawn?
No, I didn't get to sit on the senior lawn. But yes, we did. We dated all through high school, and I got to go to the ring hop with him, which is a big thing at St. Andrews, and then the junior senior at the end of the year. But it turns out he was also had tried out for the show that year. He had never been in the show before, and he tried out that year. So we went in the show together too. So. And then we dated all his 4 years at Citadel.
Right. So he goes on to the Citadel.
Right.
You're a sophomore at St. Andrews.
Right.
And what was that? What was that like?
By what do you mean?
How well was he able to? I don't want to say keep an eye on you, but just to keep up with you in your life.
You know, we didn't have telephones that you could talk on it back then. So we wrote letters. I probably wrote one every day, if not more. If I didn't write a letter that he would get almost every day, he would let me know that he didn't get a letter. So, but that was the only real communication that we had during the week. But once he got through that first part of his freshman year, he was out on Friday and Saturdays and Sundays. So we saw each other every weekend.
And went to the pier.
Sometimes we went to the pier. A lot of times we went to football and basketball games and whatever movies. I loved the musicals. I loved all the musical movies. And so every time a new one would come out, we would try to go to one of those. And he particularly liked war movies, so I would go with him. I wasn't particularly thrilled with the war movies, but they were okay.
But you were with your boyfriend.
He was my boyfriend. That's right.
Good. Well, I know that growing up in the late 70s at Middleton and seeing so many of the young ladies dating cadets, I'm not too sure how we took that, but it is what it is sometimes.
Well, several people in my class dated cadets. Some of them, my best friend in school also married her childhood sweetheart, who was also a cadet at the same time. And several people did, but others just had dates for whatever the dances were. You know, Citadel had 4 formal dances every year. So between those and what was going on at St. Andrews, there were a lot of times to be busy. Yeah.
Wow, that's great times. And when did he propose to you?
Christmas night. It was Christmas night, 3.5 years later. In my mother's kitchen, I might add.
That's the way you did it back then.
Huh?
That's how it was done back then.
Yeah, I guess it was. I see all these people planning all these great proposals now, and I'm thinking, oh, okay. I was perfectly happy to be proposed to in the kitchen.
What about, and this is a real 50s thing, the drive-in movie theater?
Oh, yes.
Tell me about that in the 50s in Charleston.
The Magnolia Drive-In. It was a wonderful place. And
Savannah
Highway. It was not only a good place to go see a movie, but it was also a good place to hang out. Sometimes there would be several cars parked together, you know, and I'm sure they wish we wouldn't have made as much noise as we did, but we did. But Magnolia Drive-In was a great place. People gathered there, and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, even in my day, I remember going. Yeah, absolutely.
You remember going to Magnolia?
Yeah. I think there's North 52 was like off of Rivers Avenue. Maybe.
Yeah, they did have one up there for a long time.
Right.
Yeah. I remember the night before my son was born, my husband and I went to the Magnolia Drive-In and we saw a movie called Please Don't Eat the Daisies with Doris Day. And I had to laugh because the little boy was it just into everything. So she took the playpen and turned it upside down to keep him in a cage. And I thought later, after I was a mother and chasing a little boy around the house, that wasn't such a bad idea. I never did it, but anyway. So yeah, I think we all have great memories of Magnolia Drive-In. Having lived here most of my life, it really makes a difference. I think people who have moved here don't have a full understanding and appreciate what St. Andrews Parish was like, which I have a little bit of problem with it being called West Ashley because it's really St. Andrews Parish, and it was St. Andrews Parish for us all those years. And so I love it when I see St. Andrews Parish instead of West Ashley. But it was a unique thing, and of course St. Andrews was the only high school for so many years, and so there was support throughout the whole community that we felt that no matter whether you had a child there or not, you still supported the school and supported what was going on. And St. Andrews also in the beginning, we had a consolidated school district, but each constituent district had its own governance, and they could make their own decisions for the local schools, and so it wasn't until they had the act of consolidation that so much was centralized downtown. So Mr. Williams, who was superintendent of schools, had an awful lot of control over what went on in all the schools in St. Andrews School District. And actually, St. Andrews was considered one of the best schools in the state at that time. And we knew it, and we were proud of it.
Oh, that's great insight. Thank you. Back in the 50s, one of the big momentous moments was Rosa Parks, and what happened in Alabama. What are your memories of that?
All of that was just as I was graduating from high school. All of the what would become the civil rights movement was just beginning. We, of course, all the students at St. Andrews when I was there were white, and we didn't have any of the black students going there. Very interesting, Mr. Williams, that I just mentioned a minute ago, his daughter was a dear, dear friend of mine and still is to this day. I was very much aware when they built Wallace School. Before that, all of the kids had to go downtown to school, if they went to school at all. And so I was very much aware that we had a black school west of Ashley, Wallace. But I don't remember any of us really having conversations about it. It wasn't until I was married and moved to Sewanee, and then the unrest really began to happen throughout the country, that all of that started coming to mind. And, of course, we know that the Civil Rights Act then integrated the schools. So when we moved back here to Charleston, my children, of course, went to school. There were both blacks and whites in the schools when we came back. But we'd already witnessed that in North Carolina. So my children had already gone to school. But we had lived in Summerton, South Carolina, where one of the 10 test cases went before the Supreme Court with Brown versus Board of Education. So, but I don't think any of us in school gave it much thought. I don't remember it being a conversation even.
It just didn't impact the young person's life at that moment.
Right. I mean, it just, it was out there, but I don't think any of us gave it any thought one way or the other.
You came back in 1970? Is that
we
correct?
Came back in November of 1970. We did. My son was in the 5th grade at Springfield, and my youngest daughter was in the 3rd grade. And now my middle daughter was in the 3rd grade. My youngest daughter was in kindergarten at that point. And then Jackie went, after that year, he went to Wallace for the 3 years, I guess it was, at Wallace. And then once he hit high school, they just had friends from both the African American and the white kids that were there. And Jackie's best friend at that point was Randy Johnson. Mm-hmm. Randy was well known at Middleton for his ability to sing and other things, but Randy came to my house almost every afternoon after school because his mother worked, and he enjoyed coming here, and we enjoyed having him, so he would come. And actually, when we lived in North Carolina, Jackie's one of his best friends was African American. We just never thought about it one way or the other, And for my girls, it was the same way. Darius Rucker and my youngest child graduated from Middleton together, and they were friends then. And although we don't see Darius, they're still friends today. So,
tell her to tell him to call me.
She would like for him to call her too. Darius says I'm very busy, but they went to Carolina together too, and they performed in the Carolina Live choral group at Carolina together.
Right. Barbara, tell me about when you guys decided to move, and you realize you need a place to live. Was there any talk or discussion about the lines where your children would be going to high school?
Well, my husband was an Episcopal priest, and we were living in Beaufort, North Carolina. And Beaufort, North Carolina is a lovely seacoast town. The children, great people that live there. And we were real happy, but we'd been there 5 years. I knew he would probably be accepting a call somewhere. And he did, to Charleston. And so when he told me that we were moving back to Charleston, I said, "Oh, well, that's wonderful. Our kids can go to St. Andrews." And he said, "No, sorry, they're going to go to Middleton." And I said, "What's a Middleton?" I didn't know that Middleton existed at that point. And of course, Middleton had just opened. Middleton, I think their first graduating class was like 1970, and that was would have been the year previously, the graduating class previous. And but we fit right in. As soon as we got to know people and the kids went to Middleton, we loved it, and they loved it. And I'm happy they did. They had excellent teachers, and it was a wonderful experience for, I think, all three of them. And for me, too. I met some wonderful people that I've known ever since, got involved doing the things that parents do in schools like that, and I've been very fortunate. And my children were very active in the Middleton Singers and band, and my girls were with cheerleaders. So, in fact, we laughed because I was a cheerleader at St. Andrews. My girls were cheerleaders at Middleton, and my granddaughter was a cheerleader for West Ashley. So we just covered all the bases.
It's interesting to branch off and be a rival, but in a way, it's a house divided in so many ways.
It was, but my love was always for St. Andrews. Once that school burned, it was a little bit. We lost a little bit because it wasn't just our memories. It was that building. So many wonderful things had happened there. But at the same time, my children were active in another school, and they were happy, and it was an excellent school. So I just felt like that they were, that's where they should have been, and but that didn't mean I didn't still love St. Andrews. Still do to this day.
There's been a lot of discussion about how do we keep our memories and legacy alive. Do you have any thoughts that come to mind?
I think what you're doing is great, because I think it does help keep things alive and make people who are new to this area understand the legacy that is there, and the camaraderie that people had, the dedication they had, the commitment they had. I think West Ashley is an excellent school. All my grandchildren have gone there and graduated from there. And I gave a few years ago, I had a lot of memorabilia that when they closed St. Andrews, they asked me if I would be the keeper of the memorabilia, and I did for many years. And I decided it needed to go to West Ashley High School. So they have a good bit of stuff over there that were things that belonged to St. Andrews High School, like pictures of the school and the ring, a picture of the ring, the seal, the pelican that sat on the desk at St. Andrews High School for the longest. And I took all that to West Ashley. And I would like for something somewhere to be so people can go in and look at
right
of some of this wonderful stuff and be remembered.
Thanks for watching today's episode, and be on the lookout for additional episodes. If you'd like to be a guest or even a host in the Rocks and Razorbacks podcast, please let us know. We want the podcast to be the go-to place for cherished Middleton and St. Andrews memories. Don't forget, The Rocks and Razorbacks documentary geared for South Carolina ETV is in production, and we'd love your input and help with that as well. For now, go Rocks and, go Hogs. Well, you get it. Thanks.